In this video, we'll be covering 5 of the common studying experiences we see in college students, and these can partially be the product of study strategies. Perhaps some of these may resonate with you, so we also have a video on evidence-based study strategies if you want ideas on how to change your approach to learning. College students express a variety of experiences around studying, but there are a few common themes. Here are just a few of the common frustrations we hear working with college students. The strategies that work for me in high school are not working for me in college. I only feel motivated to study closer to the exam, which leads to last-minute cramming. I never had to study before to do well, but now I have to study in college and I don't know how. I study a lot, but I don't retain the information long term. I knew the information really well, but my test scores don't reflect that. Let's discuss some of the reasons and academic behaviors that can cause these situations. College can be a big transition from high school. College is a lot less structured, requires more self-regulation, and there's less time to complete assignments. High school can sometimes incentivize cramming and memorization strategies where test questions prioritize understanding and remembering facts, both of which are important. But this can lead to test questions containing the same words as what you studied, so you can simply visualize your notes and recognize the correct answer. However, college exams often go beyond that and they assess your application and analysis of class material. Because of this, memorization is less successful because there is simply too much information and too little time to study everything. Additionally, surface-level knowledge of a concept may not be enough to answer questions effectively. Some students succeed in school by just staying engaged during lectures and studying more sparsely. Thus, they might get used to 80% of their learning occurring inside the classroom. However, in college or just some individual courses, this may be reversed, and the majority of the time you spend learning is outside the classroom. A professor might have a different style of teaching and provide less explicit direction on what you need to learn and not learn. Effective studying often requires some routines, which can take a while to develop, and it can be challenging to adjust your approach to studying midway through a quarter or semester. We can sometimes put off studying for more immediately gratifying activities like socializing or watching TV. Studying can feel very aversive, and you can develop a habit of putting it off until the exam day gets closer and creates a sense of urgency. But with little time left to study, students may default to rereading everything in lieu of more active and immersive learning strategies. So while many hours might be put into studying at the end of the day, your mind might not consolidate that information efficiently compared to more spaced out studying. Sometimes students feel like they put plenty of time into studying, but the information just doesn't stick. This can indicate that students are studying in a passive way. In one study of undergraduate students, 55% of participants rated rereading notes or rereading a textbook as their primary study strategy. Almost 13% listed rewriting notes as their primary study strategy. These are both very passive forms of learning. These strategies can be less effective in college because there is less time to go over everything with this shallower approach. More active forms of learning like practicing recall and doing practice problems were far less favored in this study. This can happen for a few reasons. Some students get very anxious during tests, and that prevents them from remembering information during crucial moments. Often, it is the time pressure that creates this anxiety, and some students benefit from getting accommodations for extra time on tests. But aside from anxiety, passive studying can create a false sense of how prepared one is for a test. When rereading notes or rereading textbooks, the information can make sense. And this can create a metacognitive illusion, wherein this is equated to "I know the information." However, knowing the information is being able to recall the information without that information right in front of you. In other words, with minimal retrieval cues. This is what a test is, and you have to recall a great deal of information to solve a problem. Therefore, it's important that you study in a way that at least somewhat mimics what a test is asking you to do. If any of these common studying themes resonate with you and you'd like to work on study strategies, please contact the Stanford Learning Lab and we'll set you up with a learning specialist. Also check out our other video on evidence-based study strategies. Happy studying and thanks for listening.